Imagine waking up tomorrow morning and just strapping on a backpack.
Yep.
But, I mean, this isn't just a light day pack for a hike. It's loaded with dense iron weights.
Oh, wow. That sounds awful.
Yeah, it equals roughly like 15, maybe 20% of your total body weight. So if you're 150 pounds, you're suddenly wearing a 30-pound vest.
Right. And just the immediate fatigue of that is one thing, but
Yeah.
the sheer mechanical stress on your knees and your lumbar spine would just be devastating over time.
Exactly. And here is the catch. You have to wear this pack all day, every single day.
Oh, man.
You wear it while you're, navigating the stairs, while you're jogging. You wear it while you're jumping off the couch.
That is just exhausted to even picture.
Right. Now, to make matters worse, imagine doing all of that if your spine was unusually long. Like stretched out, pulling your center of gravity across a much wider horizontal plane.
Which completely changes the physics of it.
Exactly. That exact scenario, that immense physical and mechanical burden, is the daily reality for a dachshund carrying just 2 extra pounds.
It's crazy. It really forces us to completely reevaluate our sense of scale,
Yeah, absolutely.
Because a 2-pound weight fluctuation for a human adult, or I mean, even for a large breed dog like a Mastiff or a Golden Retriever,
That's nothing.
right? It's just a metabolic rounding error. You wouldn't even notice it visually or physically.
Yeah.
But when your baseline skeletal weight is only like 18 or 20 pounds to begin with, a 2-pound increase is a 10% structural overload.
10%. Wow.
Yeah. On a frame that is, frankly, already operating at a biomechanical extreme.
Which is exactly why we're digging into this today. Welcome to the Deep Dives, everyone.
Glad to be here.
We have a really fascinating set of notes from a source called the Dachshund Health Academy, and the entire focus of this material is on canine nutrition.
It's such a great resource.
Yeah, it really is. Okay, let's unpack this, because I have to admit, when I first saw dog nutrition on the docket, my brain went straight to the aesthetic stuff.
Sure, like the shiny coat.
Exactly. I thought we'd be analyzing, omega fatty acids for a shiny coat or standard digestive health. But looking at the source material, this is a completely different ballgame.
It really is. What this source material does so masterfully is take these daily, seemingly mundane choices we make in the kitchen.
Like just measuring out kibble.
Right, measuring kibble, handing out a treat, and it links them directly to long-term orthopedic outcomes.
Which is huge.
Yeah, for this specific breed, nutrition is not just an aesthetic concern. It is a critical, load-bearing structural issue.
I mean, I always assumed dog food marketing was mostly just about lifestyle, active breed, indoor breed, that sort of thing.
Right, a lot of people think that.
But realizing that the food bowl is actually a tool for preventative structural engineering, it just completely reframes how I look at the pet aisle.
Oh, totally.
But, I mean, we can't even talk about the fuel until we understand the engine. Before we get into what goes into the dog's bowl, we need to understand the physics of this specific animal.
We absolutely do. We have to look at the biomechanics of what people affectionately call the hot dog.
Right?
When you look at a dachshund, you are looking at a highly specialized structural setup.
Okay, break that down for us.
So, according to our sources, you have this elongated spine, which is supported by a very specific network of epaxial muscles. That's the back musculature.
Okay.
And all along that length, you have intervertebral discs cushioning the vertebrae, and they act as shock absorbers.
Wait, let's pause on those shock absorbers for a second, because jumping off a couch for a normal dog is just the downward motion.
Right.
But for a dog with an elongated spine, that impact isn't just vertical, is it?
No, not at all.
It's like a kinetic shock wave traveling up a horizontal axis.
That is a crucial distinction. Every single movement for this breed is a highly complex load-bearing event. So when a dachshund jumps off a bed, climbs a set of stairs, or even just breaks into a sudden run, that long spine is subjected to shearing forces.
Shearing forces? That sounds intense.
It is. The discs are being compressed, twisted, and torqued in ways a compact dog spine simply doesn't experience. The back muscles have to fire constantly just to keep the skeletal structure stabilized.
So if you introduce excess weight to that equation, the demand on that structure doesn't just increase linearly, it compounds.
Exactly. It compounds significantly.
I was trying to picture this mechanically while reading the notes, and I kept coming back to the idea of a suspension bridge.
Oh, that's a really good way to visualize it.
Yeah, like if you have a really compact, short, sturdy bridge and you park a fleet of heavy trucks on it, the bridge holds,
Right.
The vertical supports are close together and the load is distributed efficiently.
Because the structural integrity is maintained,
Mm.
the span between the supports is minimized, so the tension is easily managed.
Right. But if you take that exact same excess weight, those same heavy trucks, and you park them in the dead center of a very long, low suspension bridge.
The physics change entirely.
Yeah. The middle of that bridge is going to bow. You are putting an incredible, sustained amount of tension on the cables holding it up and driving sheer force into the supports at either end.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, carrying that suspension bridge analogy forward into the reality of pet ownership, we hit a massive psychological trap.
A psychological trap? What do you mean?
Well, because if a literal suspension bridge is failing, you get dramatic auditory and visual feedback.
Oh, sure. You hear steel cable snapping, you see the concrete cracking.
Exactly. But with a living organism, and specifically with a dog's spine, excess weight doesn't trigger an immediate traumatic crisis.
That's scary.
Right. A slightly round dachshund is still going to be at the front door wagging its tail, looking perfectly happy and acting completely normal today, tomorrow, and next week.
There's no immediate warning siren. You don't get a flashing check engine light on their forehead when they put on half a pound.
You don't. The consequences are entirely cumulative. We're talking about microtraumas.
Microtraumas.
Yeah, it's the slow, invisible degradation of those intervertebral discs over years of carrying an unnatural load.
And because owners don't get that immediate signal that something is wrong, they underestimate how much those extra ounces matter.
Exactly. And this is the core thesis of the Dachshund Health Academy notes. Preventative nutrition is quite literally the only real defense you have against that cumulative physical degradation.
You are effectively shaping their orthopedic health years before a problem ever becomes visible on an X-ray.
Precisely.
So if the spine is a suspension bridge constantly under siege by gravity and shearing forces, then the muscles are the steel cables holding it up.
That's a perfect way to look at it.
But, I mean, you can't build steel cables out of thin air, which
Yeah.
forces us to look at the literal building blocks in their bowl,
Yeah.
right? The macronutrients.
Yes, let's look at the big three: protein, fat, and carbohydrates.
Okay.
The source material emphasizes that we need to understand the biological utility of these macros for this specific body type, rather than just relying on standard nutritional assumptions.
Let me push back on that slightly, though.
Sure, go ahead.
Because when I hear protein, my mind immediately goes to human fitness. Bodybuilders,
Right.
bulking up, muscle mass.
Right, getting huge.
Yeah. We all know protein builds muscle. But why is this framed as such a specific, critical mechanism for a dachshund?
Because in this context, we aren't talking about building bulk for athletic performance. We are talking about maintaining crucial tensile strength.
Ah.
The amino acids derived from dietary protein are synthesized directly into those epaxial muscles along the spine.
The cables on the bridge.
Yes. And if those muscles atrophy or weaken because of insufficient or low-quality protein, your cables begin to fray.
That sounds disastrous.
It is. The spine loses its primary stabilization network, which places the entirety of the structural load onto the fragile discs themselves.
So the protein isn't just fuel, it's literal infrastructure.
Exactly.
Okay, and then we get to fats. I'm looking at this through a human lens, where my doctor's always telling me to, watch my saturated fat intake, to prioritize lean meats.
Right, the typical human diet advice.
But our sources say fat is absolutely vital here. Why does a dog's lipid metabolism require a different approach than ours?
It really comes down to how their cells generate aerobic energy.
Okay.
Humans rely heavily on glycogen, which is stored carbohydrates, for sustained energy. Canines, conversely, are metabolically primed to oxidize fat.
Oh, really?
Yeah, fat is their primary, most efficient source of sustained energy. Furthermore, dietary fats provide essential fatty acids that just cannot be synthesized in the dog's body.
Which do what, exactly?
They are critical for cellular membrane health, hormone production, and yes, maintaining the integrity of the skin and coat.
So fat is good.
The danger isn't the presence of fat. The danger is when the total caloric intake exceeds their metabolic burn rate.
Got it. Now, I know there is a massive ongoing debate right now in the pet community about all this.
Oh yeah, it's a minefield.
If you walk down the pet food aisle, it's overwhelming. You've got boutique, grain-free brands, raw food evangelists, ancient grain formulas, and then just standard commercial kibble.
It's a lot to navigate.
Our sources touch on carbohydrates, which I know is a real hot-button issue for some of those raw diet advocates.
The dietary wars are certainly noisy, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But regardless of which side of the raw versus kibble aisle you fall on,
Yeah.
the source makes a very pragmatic point regarding
Which
carbohydrates.
is?
Well, dogs don't require carbs in the exact same way humans do. Appropriately cooked carbohydrates in commercial diets provide highly accessible, immediate energy.
Okay.
And more importantly, they deliver crucial dietary fiber, which regulates the gastrointestinal tract and ensures healthy nutrient absorption.
That makes sense.
But the fundamental law, the thing that supersedes the debate over specific ingredient lists, is that hitting the correct caloric threshold for their specific life stage is non-negotiable.
And that life stage element is where the biology really shifts gears, isn't it?
Drastically.
Because a dachshund's structural needs change entirely depending on where they are in their lifespan. Like, let's look at puppies.
Oh, this is so important.
The notes are very clear. Puppies require high-calorie, nutrient-dense diets because they are rapidly constructing bone, tissue, and muscle.
Right.
But the source material includes this massive, flashing neon warning sign. A chubby puppy is not a healthy puppy.
It is a pervasive and incredibly destructive myth.
Yeah.
We see a little roly-poly puppy, and we have this innate human reaction to find it adorable. We equate roundness with vitality and good care.
I am 100% guilty of this. You just want them to look like little stuffed animals.
It's a totally natural instinct, but biologically it's disastrous.
Why? What's happening inside?
Well, a puppy skeleton isn't fully formed yet. Their bones are growing at the growth plates, where cartilage is slowly calcifying into solid bone. If you overfeed a puppy, you accelerate their growth rate and simultaneously force them to carry excess weight on joints and a spine that haven't finished fusing their structural integrity.
Oh, wow. So you are putting heavy trucks on the suspension bridge while the concrete is quite literally still wet.
Exactly. And it can cause asynchronous bone growth and permanent orthopedic deformities.
That is terrifying. So the goal is to get them through puppyhood lean, strong, and structurally sound.
Yes.
But then they hit adulthood, the growth plates close, the construction project is finished. What exactly happens metabolically at that point?
They hit a biological cliff.
A cliff.
Yeah, they no longer require the surplus caloric building materials. Their metabolic rate stabilizes, and their caloric needs drop down strictly to a maintenance level.
And this raises an important question, right? Because the dog's biology has fundamentally shifted, but the owner's habits usually haven't.
That is the exact problem.
The dog goes from a hyperactive young adult playing fetch for 2 hours a day to a mature adult who is perfectly content taking 2 leisurely walks and sleeping in a sunbeam.
Precisely. The energy expenditure plummets, but the owner is still using the exact same plastic measuring cup, scooping the exact same volume of kibble into the bowl every single morning.
Which is just a recipe for disaster.
Yes, that mismatch doesn't cause weight gain overnight. It adds up slowly, ounce by invisible ounce, over months and years.
And then as they transition into the senior stage,
Their activity levels decrease even further, often accompanied by a loss of muscle mass or changes in organ function, which is where specialized veterinary guidance really becomes critical.
okay, let's say you're trying to do everything right.
Okay.
You're buying the life stage appropriate food. You're measuring the portions. But if the weight gain is so slow and invisible, how do you actually know if you're hitting the mark?
That's the tricky part.
Because according to our deep dive into these notes, you cannot trust your own eyes.
You really can't. And this is a fascinating quirk of this specific breed's anatomy. We are dealing with a deceptive silhouette.
A deceptive silhouette. I want to make sure I understand the mechanics of this visual trap.
Sure.
If you have a tall, leggy dog, like a Doberman or a Greyhound, and they put on 2 pounds, you see it instantly, right?
Yeah, because they have a very deep, tucked chest and a distinct waist. Their waist thickens visibly.
Right. But on a dachshund, because their torso is so elongated, does the fat just distribute evenly across a wider surface area?
That's exactly the mechanism. The long body actively masks the early stages of weight gain.
That is so wild.
Yeah, the fat layer spreads out seamlessly along the torso, so the dog simply looks a bit more solid. You cannot accurately gauge their body condition by looking down at them from across the living room. Your eyes will lie to you.
Which means if we can't trust our eyes and we know the suspension bridge is vulnerable, we have to get tactile.
We have to use our hands.
The sources emphasize a hands-on body condition check. But reading the description of feeling the ribs in the notes felt a bit abstract to me.
Let's make it concrete. We can use your own hand as an anatomical reference point.
Ooh, I like that. Let's do it.
Okay, make a tight fist with your hand and run the fingers of your other hand over your knuckles.
Okay, I'm doing it. It's very bony, very sharp.
Right. If you run your hands along your dog's rib cage, with light pressure and it feels like those knuckles, the dog is significantly underweight.
Okay, that's bad.
Yes, the bones are protruding without sufficient muscular or fat coverage, which presents its own serious medical issues.
Got it.
Now, open your hand flat, face up, and press on the fleshy part of your palm, right at the base of your thumb.
Okay. Yeah, soft, completely padded. I can't feel any bone structure at all.
If your dog's ribcage feels like that, where you have to push through a thick, spongy layer of tissue just to locate the ribs, your suspension bridge is heavily overloaded. They are overweight.
So what's the Goldilocks zone? Where do we want to be?
Turn your hand over. Keep it flat and run your fingers over the back of your hand, right where your fingers meet the main part of your hand.
Oh, okay. That makes perfect sense. It's smooth, there's a thin layer of skin and tissue, but I can easily feel the distinct ridges of the bones underneath without having to dig.
Exactly. That is the ideal tactile response.
That is such a great trick.
It works perfectly.
Okay.
And you supplement that by looking at them from directly above to ensure there is an inward curve, a waist behind the rib cage,
Right.
and from the side, you should see an upward tuck in the belly. The stomach shouldn't hang level with the chest.
This is where I have to step in and voice what I know listeners are thinking.
Uh-oh.
Because if you do this knuckle palm finger test and you realize your dog's ribs feel like a soft palm, the guilt sits in. You realize you have to cut back.
It's a tough moment.
And the immediate casualty is usually treats. But looking into those eyes, when they're begging for a piece of cheese, I mean, it feels so incredibly mean to stop.
It does.
How do we bridge that gap between our emotional desire to reward them and the physical reality of their spine?
We have to confront the reality of invisible calories, and we have to do some uncomfortable math.
Okay, hit me with the math.
The source material states that treats should make up 10% or less of total daily calories.
Wait, 10%? That's nothing.
Yes, and on a little 18-pound dog, that daily caloric budget is minuscule to begin with.
Right.
If you give them a standard, commercially bought dog biscuit or a single 1-inch cube of cheddar cheese, you haven't just given them a snack.
What have I given them?
Proportionally, that is the equivalent of a human eating 2 double cheeseburgers between meals.
2 double cheeseburgers? Are you serious?
I am. You might have just blown through 30% of their entire daily caloric limit in one single gulp.
That is insane. Owners are often so meticulous with the kibble, too. They measure it out to the exact gram, but then they hand out, like, 3 training treats, a dollop of peanut butter and a puzzle toy, and a crust of pizza from dinner, completely oblivious to the metabolic cost.
What's fascinating here is that we have a psychological blind spot.
How so?
We mentally categorize kibble as diet, and we categorize treats and table scraps as affection. We believe we're bonding with the animal.
We think we're expressing love.
We do, but we have to reframe that logic. In a small, structurally vulnerable dog, those invisible calories, that extra biscuit, that piece of cheese, are the exact mechanisms applying dangerous cumulative pressure on the intervertebral discs.
Wow.
By expressing our affection through unmeasured calories, we are quite literally loving them into a state of structural failure.
Loving them into a state of structural failure, that completely shatters the illusion of the harmless table scrap.
It really isn't harmless.
It isn't a bonus. It is a heavy brick added to the backpack. But here's where it gets really interesting.
Oh, the kibble trick.
Yes. The source material offers this brilliant practical hack for this, especially for owners who are actively training their dogs and need to utilize a reward system.
It is incredibly effective.
I love this concept. Instead of buying high-calorie treats, you measure out the dog's normal, mathematically appropriate daily portion of food in the morning.
Right.
And when you need to reward them throughout the day, you literally just pull a piece of kibble from that pre-measured pile.
It's so simple.
Right. They're getting their standard diet, but they perceive it as a high-value prize because of the context in which it's given. Or, if you absolutely must use specialized treats, you break them down into microscopic little crumbles.
Because a dog's brain doesn't calculate the volume of the reward.
Really?
Yeah, pea-sized crumble of a treat fires the exact same dopamine receptors in their brain as a whole biscuit would. They care about the transaction, the interaction with you, not the caloric density of the item.
That is such a good tip. And if we're talking about things going into their body, the notes also flag hydration, which seems simple, but has a direct link to this whole system.
It does. Water intake is vital for cellular function and digestion, but from a weight management perspective, proper hydration actually helps with satiety.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, a hydrated dog feels fuller and may be less prone to aggressive scavenging or begging behaviors.
But the sources also note that any sudden change in thirst or any decision to drastically overhaul their diet requires stepping back and getting a professional involved.
Yeah.
You shouldn't just suddenly cut their food in half because you've failed the POM test.
Absolutely not. Rapid weight loss can be really dangerous, and underlying metabolic conditions like hypothyroidism can cause weight gain despite strict diets.
So you need a vet.
The veterinarian acts as your objective third party. As we've discussed, the dog's shape is visually deceptive, and our own perceptions are heavily clouded by our affection for them.
Too true.
Regular veterinary weigh-ins provide a hard, clinical, objective trend line. The scale isn't influenced by puppy-dog eyes.
The scale does not care how cute they are.
Exactly.
So pulling all of this together, this deep dive has been a massive paradigm shift.
It really has.
I mean, we started by looking at dog food, and we ended up navigating this complex web of physics, biomechanics, cellular metabolism, and human psychology.
It just highlights how deeply interconnected all these systems are.
Yeah.
What the Dachshund Health Academy notes ultimately reveal is that nutrition is not a passive daily chore. It isn't merely about caloric fulfillment. Nutrition is the active foundational pillar of long-term orthopedic health.
For a dachshund specifically, maintaining a lean muscular weight is quite literally the most valuable lifelong gift you can possibly give them.
It is the ultimate form of preventative care. It preserves their ability to run, jump, and simply exist without chronic pain for years to come.
And I think whether you share your home with a dachshund, a completely different animal, or honestly, even if you just have a deep curiosity about anatomy, this information shifts how you view the seemingly insignificant choices we make.
It really does.
It proves that portion control isn't a punishment. You aren't depriving them of joy when you withhold that extra piece of cheese. You are providing essential structural protection.
You are extending the lifespan of their suspension bridge.
Which leaves us with one final, incredibly provocative thought to ponder.
Okay, what is it?
Well, we've spent this entire deep dive analyzing how incredibly sensitive canine biomechanics are to these minor long-term structural overloads.
Right.
We've explored exactly how 2 extra pounds can bow a spine and cause intervertebral discs to slowly degrade over time.
The devastating toll of invisible cumulative mechanical stress.
Exactly. It really makes you wonder, how often do we completely ignore the slow cumulative impact of just a little excess physical load or repetitive mechanical stress on our own human frames over the decades?
Oh, wow. That's a great point.
Right. If we are suddenly this acutely aware of the engineering vulnerabilities of a dachshund, maybe we should start thinking critically about how heavy that invisible backpack is that we're forcing our own spines to carry every single day.
A fascinating and very sobering parallel to consider.
Take care of your suspension bridges, everybody. We'll catch you on the next deep dive.